They say when you love someone, you should love them with your whole heart, but sometimes, putting too much trust in one person only brings you pain. My name is Alex, I'm 32, and I've been a truck driver for years, a grueling job that keeps me on the road all day, drenched in sweat, covered in dust. It's tough, but it has its perks. I get to travel, see new places, and meet all kinds of people. A few years ago, on one of my delivery runs, I met Sophie, the woman I thought was my true love, the one I dreamed of marrying. But she also became the source of the deepest pain I've ever felt, a pain that still haunts me to this day. I met Sophie when I was hauling cargo to a market in a small town out west. She worked at a fruit stall, looking adorable with her bright smile, but what really drew me in was her sweet, almost hypnotic way of talking. I was smitten. After a few months of dating, we decided to move in together, renting a tiny room on the outskirts of town. Sophie suggested we pool our money into a savings fund for our future wedding, and I agreed, thinking she was thoughtful and forward-thinking. I trusted her completely, imagining a life together. But things started going downhill fast. I kept pushing to set a wedding date, but Sophie always had an excuse to delay it, family issues, needing more time to save money, you name it. I loved her, so I didn't press too hard, thinking she just wanted everything to be perfect. A year passed, then a year and a half. I was working harder than ever, driving long hauls all day, coming home exhausted, and crashing into bed without much time to talk to Sophie. The spark between us faded, and our little room felt colder every day. Then I started noticing strange behavior. Sophie was glued to her phone, texting constantly, giggling to herself. I thought maybe she was upset because I'd been so busy and hadn't been giving her enough attention. So I made an effort. I cut back on my runs, took her out for meals, tried to rekindle our romance. But the more I tried, the more distant she seemed. Her eyes avoided mine, her phone never left her hand, and I had this gut-wrenching feeling that something was wrong. I kept asking about the wedding, but she dodged the question every time. Finally, after I pushed hard, she agreed to a date. But right before the big day, Sophie started demanding things: a new phone, gold jewelry, expensive clothes. I figured we'd be married soon anyway, so I used the savings I'd set aside for the wedding to buy her what she wanted. I wasn't the type to keep score. I just wanted her to be happy. That day, I came home earlier than expected, not because of luck, but because my truck got pulled over for being over the weight limit. After dealing with the fine, I headed back, feeling uneasy for reasons I couldn't explain. When I got to our room, my world shattered. Sophie walked out with a young guy I'd never seen before, laughing and chatting like nothing was wrong. For the first time in my life, I lost control. I lunged at the guy, grabbing him by the collar, too furious to even speak. Sophie threw herself between us, shouting, "Alex, calm down. He's just a coworker who came to visit. You came back early, so you misunderstood." Her words stung, but they also softened me. I went from a jealous lunatic to feeling like I'd overreacted. I even apologized to her, but that moment lodged itself in my heart like a thorn. I couldn't shake the suspicion. Was my fiancé cheating on me? Stories I'd heard, movies, gossip about truck drivers being betrayed, started haunting me. I confided in Mark, a buddy I drove with. He gave me all sorts of advice, but seeing how distracted and lost I was, he suggested I check Sophie's social media. One day, I borrowed her phone and logged into her Zalo account from my laptop, syncing it so I'd see her messages in real time. What I found left me reeling. She'd been texting the guy I'd seen that day, the coworker. They'd been together for 4 months, and worse, they'd slept together. I read messages that broke me on my birthday, when Sophie had thrown me a party with a cake and we'd been so close, she'd gone to a hotel with him that same night while I was out driving. I felt like a wounded animal, my mind exploding with questions. What did he have that I didn't? Was I not earning enough? Was he better than me in some way? I didn't confront Sophie right away. I was too afraid I'd do something reckless. Instead, I tracked down the guy. That night, I waited for him after his shift, followed him, and cut him off with my truck. He looked terrified, probably 5 or 6 years younger than me. After a heated conversation, I learned the ugly truth. Sophie had been playing us both. To me, she promised marriage and a future, but to him, she spun a different story, that she was only with me because I'd helped her family, not because she loved me, and that she might not even go through with the wedding. She was using him for money and me for both money and emotional support. The worst part? She'd slept with me one night and him the next day. I felt sick, betrayed in the worst way possible. I didn't go home that night. I sat alone at a bar, drinking until I lost count. It was the first time I'd gotten drunk without feeling the alcohol. My pain was too overwhelming. I stayed away, afraid of what I might do if I saw her. The next morning, I went back. Sophie was still there, acting clueless, her fake innocence making my blood boil. I couldn't hold it in. I told her everything I'd found out. She had the nerve to claim it was just a crush, that nothing serious had happened between them. But when I called the guy over to confront her face to face, she broke down, crying and unable to deny the truth. Maybe to some, this is just another breakup. Everyone goes through heartbreak, right? But for someone like me, who saw her as my entire world, it was more than betrayal. That wound runs deep, and it's a scar I'll carry forever. I'm still single, unable to open my heart to anyone new, but I believe one day I'll find the happiness I deserve. I thought I'd known what heartbreak was after Sophie, but life had more lessons for me. My name is Emily, and I want to share a story from my wedding day that left me questioning everything. My husband Nathan and I had been together for 3 years, through arguments, breakups, and reconciliations. Maybe it was fate that brought us back together, because we finally decided to tie the knot. Nathan is 3 years older than me, handsome, with a stable job. He's straightforward, not great with sweet words, but he always showed his care in his own way. Still, our relationship wasn't easy. My parents never approved of him. My family is well off. My parents run a successful business, while Nathan's parents are factory workers nearing retirement, living in a modest house. My family thought I could do better, someone more suitable for our status. They never outright opposed us, but their subtle comments and looks made it clear they thought Nathan wasn't good enough. Nathan, though, was smart and sensitive. He knew how they felt, but he never let it get to him. "I'll prove to your parents you didn't choose wrong," he'd tell me. I believed in him, in us, and I didn't care about the money. We loved each other, and that was enough. During a meeting to plan the wedding, Nathan's mom, Mrs. Clara, spoke up in front of my parents. "My son might not be as wealthy as you'd hoped," she said, "but I can proudly say he's smart, kind, and was raised right." My parents stayed quiet, and I didn't think much of it. I trusted my choice. We agreed on a simple wedding. Nathan's family mostly lived in the countryside, with few relatives able to attend, and he warned me their wedding gift would be symbolic. He suggested my family handle any dowry during the engagement ceremony. I didn't care how much my parents gave. I just wanted to marry the man I loved. But what hurt me most came from Nathan's family on our wedding day. In the middle of the lavish reception hall, the MC called both families to the stage to exchange gifts. Nathan's parents went first, giving us 2 thin gold rings. His sister handed me a small gold piece. I bowed in gratitude, touched by their effort despite their modest means. Then it was my family's turn, and the mood shifted. My dad stepped up, holding a red envelope and a small box. He opened the box, revealing a property deed. "We're giving our daughter this land so you two can build a solid home," he announced to the crowd. The room buzzed with whispers. My mom followed, handing us a hefty gold bar, and my aunts and uncles each gave at least a piece of gold, probably over 3 bars in total. I didn't think it was a big deal. To me, it was just my family's love and support. But Mrs. Clara's face darkened. Nathan stood beside me, his jaw tight, lips pressed together in discomfort. That night, after the guests left, we sat down for a late meal with his parents. Mrs. Clara suddenly slammed her chopsticks down, glaring at me. "I know your family's rich, but did you have to show off like that? Your parents made it look like they're better than us." Nathan chimed in, his voice sharp. "I told you beforehand, Emily. Your parents doing that made my family feel small. Guests were whispering that I'm lucky to marry into a rich family, that I'm just a poor guy who hit the jackpot. You're my wife. Couldn't you think about how this affects my family? I was stunned. Turning to Nathan, I shot back, and what about me? Has anyone thought about how I feel? I was never ashamed to marry someone less wealthy. Why are you ashamed that I come from money? The room fell silent, the tension suffocating. Why was my family giving me gifts on my wedding day seen as an insult to his? My parents and relatives just wanted to support us. Those gifts weren't just for me, they were for our future together. Nathan's family didn't give much, and we never minded, so why were they upset that my family gave more? On the first day of being a wife, I was already facing resentment from my new family. I thought after all we'd been through, Nathan and I would understand and trust each other more, but now I wondered if I'd made a mistake choosing him. Love taught me another hard lesson with Chris, my ex. I'm Lydia, and I thought Chris was my forever, until his old flame came back and turned my world upside down. Chris used to be successful, a startup star swimming in money, with his then-girlfriend Rachel by his side. But life has its ups and downs. He lost everything, his business, his money, even his car. His friends abandoned him, and Rachel left without a second thought, blocking him the moment he hit rock bottom. When I met Chris, I fell hard. I knew he was struggling, but I loved him for who he was, honest, driven, and kind. I didn't care about the money. I threw myself into loving him, no strings attached. I gave him everything, my support, my trust, even my family's resources. I let him use my parents' property deed to secure a bank loan to rebuild his business. Call me crazy, but I couldn't stand seeing him broken. We started from nothing, scraping by on instant noodles and cheap coffee, but I never complained. You're suffering too much with me, he'd say. When I make it big again, I'll give you anything you want. I didn't need much, just his love, pure and true. But you can't plan for everything. After years of hard work, Chris made it big again. His company thrived. Money poured in. Things seemed perfect until Rachel reappeared. At first, I didn't suspect anything. Chris was still attentive, picking me up, kissing me goodnight. But then he started taking more business trips, always with his phone glued to his hand, even in the bathroom. I didn't think much of it until one day, when he asked me to transfer money to a partner while he was driving. I noticed something odd. Every month, he'd been sending $300 to $900 to an account I didn't recognize. When I asked, he brushed it off as paying a debt. But the consistent payments raised red flags. I copied the account number and looked it up. It belonged to Rachel. My instincts kicked in, and I started paying closer attention. One day, while Chris was in the shower, his phone buzzed nonstop. I wasn't the type to snoop, but curiosity got the better of me. What I found shattered me, a long thread of messages between him and Rachel. She wrote things like, "I've been struggling lately. I miss the days we were together. I wouldn't have left you if things hadn't been so hard." And instead of calling her out, Chris replied, "I miss you too. Tell me what you need. I'll take care of everything. You suffered a lot because of me." I felt like a fool. The woman who'd abandoned him when he was down was now back, and he was funding her life while I'd been the one holding him up all along. I confronted Chris. He tried to deny it at first, but with the evidence in front of him, he couldn't keep up the lie. Sighing, he admitted, "I'm sorry, Lydia, but I still care about her a lot." I was speechless. He cared about her, the woman who left him for circumstances, while I'd been there through his darkest days. He'd once sworn he hated her, that she didn't deserve his love because she only wanted his money. Yet here he was, secretly supporting her. The worst part? He had the audacity to say, "I don't want to lose you, but I can't let her go either." It was a line straight out of a bad movie, but hearing it in real life was devastating. I'd been his girlfriend, his ATM, his caretaker when he had nothing, while she got to enjoy his success. That night, I packed my things and left. No tears, no screaming, just a deep, burning anger at my own naivety. I told myself I was done. Chris could take care of the whole world, but I wouldn't be part of it anymore. My parents, when they found out, didn't blame him, they pitied him. Men can be soft-hearted, they said. If he still loves her, let him go. And I did, not because I stopped loving him, but because loving him had become too exhausting. I couldn't carry his future only for him to share it with someone else. Looking back, I laugh at how he'd sworn he'd hate her forever, only to turn around and fund her life. I learned my lesson. Don't sacrifice too much for someone, because one day, they'll take it for granted. I'm doing fine now, working, loving myself, and living without Chris. I was foolish once, but never again. Now for a brighter story. I'm Grace, and my relationship with my mother-in-law, Mrs. Linda, taught me what family truly means. When I married Tom, his family wasn't well off. They lived in a small house in a narrow alley in the city, not cramped, but far from spacious. Mrs. Linda was a simple, quiet woman, meticulous in everything she did. I'll never forget my first dinner as a daughter-in-law, a modest meal, but warm and comforting. She looked at me, ladled more soup into my bowl, and said, "Eat up, dear. Make yourself at home." Those words, so gentle, warmed my heart. I'd always been nervous about the mother-in-law/daughter-in-law dynamic, but over time, I realized Mrs. Linda wasn't the type to nitpick or judge. She was just someone who'd worked hard her whole life. Mrs. Linda had been with a textile company for over 20 years, but right after our wedding, she lost her job. With her small pension gone, the family struggled. Tom didn't have a steady job yet, and I was just a homemaker, tinkering in our tiny kitchen. Those were tough days, and I had no idea Mrs. Linda was quietly taking on work she'd never imagined doing. She started washing dishes at a roadside diner, hiding it from us, leaving early in the morning and coming back late at night. I thought she was just out shopping or visiting neighbors, but one day, I noticed her hands, already calloused from years of labor, now cracked and raw from being soaked in water all day. When I asked, she brushed it off with a smile. "It's nothing, dear. I just wanted to stay busy." But when I pressed her, she sighed, her eyes heavy with sadness. "I didn't want you and Tom to feel the pressure. We're all struggling. I couldn't just sit by and do nothing." My heart ached. I'd become her daughter-in-law, but I hadn't done anything to ease her burden. I'd only added to it. That night, I couldn't sleep, wondering how I could help her. Then an idea struck me. At the time, late-night food delivery was booming online. I suggested to Tom that we start a small business using our strength, cooking. I knew how to cook, and Mrs. Linda was even better. If we could sell food online, maybe we could ease the family's struggles. Tom agreed but was hesitant, and Mrs. Linda stayed quiet for a moment before asking, "Are you too sure about this?" I nodded firmly. She smiled, a rare, warm smile I hadn't seen often. "Then let's do it. I'm here to help." From that day, Mrs. Linda woke up early to shop for ingredients, carefully picking the freshest vegetables and meats. "We have to do this with heart," she'd say. "The food can be simple, but it has to be clean. Customers should remember us after one bite." The early days were rough. We'd be in the kitchen until midnight while Tom took orders and made deliveries. On rainy nights, he'd come back soaked, and Mrs. Linda would sigh, muttering, "I hope Tom isn't too wet out there." I knew she worried about her son, but she worried about me too. She'd never sleep if I was still working. "Go rest, Mom," I'd say, but she'd smile and reply, "I'm used to it. I can't sleep anyway." She was really worried I'd be too tired, worried the business might fail, worried we'd never escape our struggles. But slowly, things turned around. Orders picked up, we gained regular customers, and Mrs. Linda's eyes sparkled with pride. So did mine. When I got pregnant with our second child and the business was stable, I brought my parents in to help, and for the first time in months, Mrs. Linda slept before 11 p.m. Still, she couldn't fully rest. I'd catch her watching from the corner of the kitchen, as if she feared I'd struggle without her. Over time, our business grew. We opened more locations, no longer just a tiny operation in our kitchen. I'll never forget those hard days, Mrs. Linda's cracked hands from washing dishes, the late nights we spent cooking together, her worried eyes when Tom was out delivering in the rain. Now, I just want Mrs. Linda to enjoy her life. Tom and I saved up to buy her nice clothes, health supplements, and even arranged a trip for her to relax after years of sacrificing for us. When she came back from a week in the mountains, I asked, "Did you enjoy the trip, Mom?" She beamed, looking years younger. "I loved it, but it felt strange. I'm not used to having nothing to do." I laughed. She'd worked so hard for so long that rest felt foreign to her. In that moment, I realized I'd never told her how much I appreciated her, but I think she knows. She sees it in the meals I cook for her, the gifts I pick out, the way I urge her to rest. To me, she's not just a mother-in-law, despite what people say about different blood, different hearts. She's my mom, my partner, the one who stood by me through the hardest times. Finally, a lighter story to wrap things up. I'm Chloe, and my love story with Jake, my regular delivery guy, is proof that life is full of surprises. It started one night when I went drinking with friends to get over a breakup. We hit our usual spot, a lively bar packed with people. As fate would have it, Jake, the delivery guy who always brought my orders, was there with his buddies. I'd always tease Jake whenever he dropped off my food, "You're too good-looking to be a delivery guy." Harmless flirting, or so I thought. That night, after a few drinks, I spotted him and couldn't resist. "Hey, it's my delivery guy," I called out. "You look even hotter out of uniform." My friends cracked up, and Jake turned bright red. The more I drank, the more I teased him, until my friends had to intervene. "Stop it, Chloe, you're embarrassing him," they said, pointing out his tomato-red face. But I was too far gone to care. By the end of the night, I insisted Jake take me home since he was someone I knew. My friends gave up, and Jake, with a sigh, agreed. "Fine, I'll get her home safely." On the way, I rambled about my ex, my bad luck, everything. Jake just listened, chuckling occasionally. When we got to my place, I refused to let him leave. "Stay. I'm so sad, let's keep drinking." He tried to say no, but in my drunken state, I was relentless. One thing led to another, and, well, I ended up being his first. The next morning, I was mortified. Jake was sweet. He bought me breakfast and asked, "How are you feeling?" "I'm sorry, I couldn't hold back last night." I waved him off, blushing. "It's fine, it was just a mistake. You don't have to feel responsible." I meant it, I didn't want him to feel obligated. But his face fell. "So you don't want me to take responsibility? Or do you think I'm not good enough?" I hesitated, then blurted out, "I just don't think we're a match. I want someone with a stable office job, not a delivery guy. We're adults, we don't need to make a big deal out of this." He nodded quietly and left. I thought that was the end of it. For days, I avoided him. He texted and called, saying he wanted to date me properly, but I brushed him off. Finally, he said, "If you don't want this, I won't push you, but I'm not as bad as you think." A week later, I went back to the same bar with my friends. As soon as I walked in, I froze. Jake was behind the counter, talking to the staff, looking serious. My friend nudged me. "Isn't that your guy? Looks like he owns this place." Before I could process it, Jake spotted me and walked over, smiling. "So, do I have a future now?" "I don't just deliver food, I own this bar. I only do deliveries when we're short-staffed, for fun." I was speechless. "You really own this place?" He smirked. "What, you thought I was just a delivery guy? So, am I good enough now?" My friends burst out laughing, and I stammered, "Well, I guess you're kind of cute." With no more excuses to push him away, I gave in. My friends teased, "No reason to say no now, go for it." Jake pulled up a chair. "No more avoiding me, okay? And from now on, drinks are on the house." What started as a drunken mistake turned into a real relationship. I went from a one-night stand to having a handsome, sweet boyfriend and free drinks for life. Funny how life works, right?